Here's the large test of life. You can have more than you have in light of the fact that you can turn out to be more than you are. That is the test. What's more, obviously, the opposite side of the coin perishes. Unless you change how you are, you'll constantly have what you got. I have tracked down in my experience that pay doesn't far surpass individual improvement. Now, at times pay takes a fortunate leap. Be that as it may, sure enough, unless you grow out where it is, it'll as a rule return where you are. Life has abnormal ways. If somebody gives you $1 million, best you become a millionaire quickly so you get to keep the money. Otherwise, certain enough, it'll vanish. Somebody once said if you took all the money on the planet, split it similarly among everybody, it would soon all be back in similar pockets. Incredible success is something you draw in, not something you seek after. Success is searching for a good place to stay. So rather than pursuing it, you work on yourself, self-awareness. See, the significant inquiry to pose at work isn't what are you getting? The major inquiry to pose at work is, are you becoming? So the central issue isn't what am I getting paid here? The central issue is what am I becoming here? Since true happiness isn't held back in what you get. Happiness is contained in what you become. So that's our significant subject for this evening. Self-awareness. Of all the tasks Mr. Rohn gave me at age 25, this was probably the most difficult. In fact, I'm still working on this one. I think it's a ceaseless challenge to see what you can become. The next subject is called essential laws. Studying the fundamentals is good, and I call these basics simply because they come from the Bible. Now, I'm not a theologian or a minister, and that will be evident. But Mr. Rohn taught me that the Bible was a good textbook for ideas and stories and success formulas, how to live a better life. I found that was true. He also taught me that the Bible is as practical as it is spiritual, and I found out that is true. If you take a gander at your bank account and your pay and you're distraught, there are some places in the Bible to check to see what in blazes is wrong so you can make the changes. And we're going to cover some of those this evening called basics. All right, the next subject is my favorite, setting goals. Mr. Rohn taught me how to set goals. What a favor that was. One morning at breakfast, soon after I met him, he said, "Jim, let me see your current list of goals and let's go over them and talk about them." He said, "Maybe that's the best way I can help you get a better course started." And I said, "I don't have a list." He said, "Well, is it out in the car or home somewhere?" I said, "No, sir, I don't have a list anywhere." He said, "Well, young man, that's where we got to start." He said, "I can tell you right now, if you don't have a list of your goals with you," he said, "I can guess your bank balance within a couple $100s, which he did. And that definitely got my attention. I said, "You mean my bank balance would change if I had a list of goals?" He said, "Drastically." That day I became a willing student on how to set goals. And sure enough, learning how to set goals completely changed my life. And I often wondered why no one had ever taught me how to set goals up until age 25. I went to high school, but if they offered it, I missed it. I went to college for a year, never heard it. I worked for Sears, really? And as far as anyone knows, Sears never taught it, right? How to set goals. So here I am, age 25, married, my family starting. I've been to college, I'm working, and I still don't know how to set goals. But fortunately, when I was 25, I met the man who taught me how, and it revolutionized my whole life financially, socially, personally. It's unbelievable. So, I want to share with you tonight what Mr. Rohn shared with me. How to set goals, it could be a life transformer. All right, the next subject is the negative part of the workshop. Life is part negative, so we got to talk about the negative. And this subject is called diseases of attitude. Diseases of attitude. There's a lot of things that can wreck your chances to do well. We live in a perhaps dangerous world, so you got to be not only wise, you got to be careful. Now, attitude diseases are just as bad as physical diseases, right? High blood pressure, heart trouble. I mean, a lot of things can ruin your chances to do well. So you got to be careful. And attitude diseases are deadly. I mean, they'll destroy all the good things you start. All right, so we'll go through those attitude diseases. How to identify them, what to look for, what they are, and the cure. And I'm a pro on these because I've had them all, so I can give you amazing advice on these. Now, the last subject we're going to consider this evening is called the day that turns your life around. The day that turns your life around. And under this topic, we're going to talk about the emotions that can change your life. Humans are emotional creatures, and emotions are powerful for life change. Now, of course, emotions are so powerful, they can go one way or the other on you. Emotions can either build or destroy. So you really need to use emotions properly. We consider civilization the wise management of human emotions. If you can intelligently apply your emotions in the right direction, no telling what can happen. It could turn your life around in one day. So we'll talk about those. Okay. Well, that's a lot to cover in one night, but we'll keep at it here and see if we can't finish everything. I would like to have, write down the subject of the class. Each workshop should have a subject, I guess. We have one. It's on some of our literature if you happen to see it, but if you didn't, for your notes, here it is. The subject of the class goes like this. Major key to your better future is you. So that's the subject of our class this evening. The major key to your better future is you. And I would like to have you underline two words, just to give it some extra punch. Underline the word major and the word you, so that it reads, the major key to your better future is you. Now, my first thought is, move this to a card or something like that where you can put it up where you can see it every day. Ideally, put it up where you can see it at the beginning of every day, before you head out to gather the day. This is a good phrase, just to glance at, to keep in mind as you're putting the day together. It's called the silent sermon. If you'll just let this talk to you during the day, I found it to be immensely helpful. Major key, your better future is you. For a big portion of my life. Now, I didn't have this one quite figured out, among a lot of things I didn't have quite figured out. Many things used to puzzle me back in those early days. I used to wonder why two people could work for the same company. One make twice as much money. Now, see, that used to puzzle me. And maybe they were the same age, graduated from the same school, live in the same community, work for the same company with the same products and the same services. They have the same traffic, the same problems, and one makes $1,000 a month. The other one makes $2,000 a month. Now, was my puzzling questions. Why would this extensive list be the same and the money twice as much? I wondered, what's the difference between $1,000 a month and $2,000 a month? And I don't mean $1,000 a month, right? I can figure that out. But what makes the difference? Why would one person do twice as well, 3 times as well, talking financially now? I know there's more than one way to do well. I understand that. But in this little thin area called income, what's the difference? Well, back then, with my flawed thinking, I'm trying to reason it out. I thought, well, maybe time makes some of the difference, right? Certain people do better because they have more time. I used to say, Harold should be able to do well. He has a lot of time. Oh, if I had Harold's time, I could do well. Well, that's become stupid, right? Number one, you can't get someone else's time. A guy says to me one time, he says, if I had some extra time, I could make some extra money. I said, then forget it. There isn't any extra time. Hey, when 12 o'clock arrives at midnight, that about wraps it up, right? I mean, you can hang around the gongs there for a little more, but it's done. You say to the guy, what are you doing? He says, I'm looking for extra time. See, they'll come and take you away, right? There isn't any extra time. Now, if you can't get extra time, which you can't, What can you get more of that would make a difference in financial results? And here's the key word. Make it a part of your notes. We're going to consider it this evening. The word is value. And I have a little phrase for your knowers. A value makes the difference in results. Value makes the difference. You can't get extra time, but you can create more value. Now, here's the first lesson of economics everybody should learn. From the time they're old enough to understand what a dollar means, how to earn one, how to get one, how to keep one, how to deal with it. The first lesson of economics, we basically get paid for value. That is example one, carrying value to the marketplace. That is how you get paid. You don't get paid for the time. I know it takes time to bring value to the marketplace, but you get paid for the value, not the time. Now, since that is true, here's one of the key questions of the night. Is it possible to become twice as valuable at the marketplace and make twice as much money in the same time? Could you become 3 times as valuable and make 3 times as much money in the same time? Is that possible? The answer is yes, if. And it's always if, right? Life is called the big if. Harry Truman once said, life is iffy. How true. And here's the big gift we're going to consider this evening. It's possible to do much better in the marketplace if you go to work primarily on yourself. And that's the theme of our course this evening. Learning to work primarily on yourself. People have asked me for the last 24 years, how do you develop an above average income? And the answer is become an above average person. Develop an above average handshake. Some people want to be successful, and they don't even work on their handshake, as simple as that is. Start there. They let it slide. They don't know. Develop an above average smile. Develop above average energy. Develop an above average interest in others. Develop an above average drive to win. See, that will make all the difference. Probably one of the most frustrating experiences in life is looking for an above average job with above average pay without becoming an above average person. It's called failure. And Mr. Rohn gave me probably the greatest clue he gave me when I first met him. He said, Jim, to be rich and happy the rest of your life, just learn this lesson well. He said, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Then Mr. Rohn gave me probably one of the most important clues among so many things he taught me. But this was in those early days. Mr. Rohn is very kind, but he was also very direct, and he had these interesting questions to ask. I'm giving him a little rundown one day on how things hadn't worked out for me. He said, Mr. Rohn, I have the answer for you. If you will, listen carefully. And listen carefully. I did that day and for the next 5 years. If someone's wealthy and happy, you've got to listen. He said, Jim, I've only known you a short time, but it's already my honest opinion that for things to change for you, you have to change. That wasn't quite the answer I was looking for, but that's the answer he gave me. And I give it to you on this warm summer evening in Anaheim, California, 1980 when. For things to change for you, you have to change. Otherwise, it won't change. Before I met Mr. Rohn, I used to say, I sure hope things will change. Right, that seemed like my only hope. If it doesn't change, I'm in serious trouble. And then I found out it won't change, so I'm in serious trouble. See, I can tell you what the 80s are going to be like. You have dropped into the right place. I did a course one time for Standard Oil executives and management in Honolulu. And we're having a meeting one day on this big conference table. And one of them says to me, Mr. Rohn, you know, some pretty well-known people halfway around the world. What do you think the 80s are going to be like? I said, gentlemen, I do know the right people. I can tell you. So they all listened carefully. And I said, gentlemen, based on my wide experience, I can honestly say to you, in my opinion, during the 80s, it's going to be about like it's always been. Aren't you glad you came? That's inside. I don't pass that around everywhere. Now, of course, I said that to make a point, but I also said it because it's accurate. It's going to be about like it's always been. It won't change. The tide comes in, and then what? It goes out. For 6,500 years that we know of, written history, and probably well before that. So it is not going to change. It gets light, and then what? It turns dark. 6,500 years. See, it's not likely to change, and we're not to be alarmed by that. And if the sun goes down, the person says, what's going on? What's happened? It means he hasn't been here long, I suppose. Right? It always goes down at last. The person says, well, I don't like that arrangement. Well, you got to talk to somebody other than me, right? It gets light, then it turns dark in rotation. Next season after fall is what? Winter. Pray tell, how often do winters follow fall? Every year, regularly for the last 6,500 years that we know of. See, it won't change. Now, some winters are long, and some are short, and some are hard, and some are easy, but they always come right after fall. It won't change. Sometimes you can sort it out. Sometimes there's no way to figure it out. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it gets in a tangle. Sometimes it sails along. Sometimes it gets stuck. See, that won't change. The last 6,000 years reads like this. Opportunity mixed with difficulty. That's how it reads. It won't change. The man says, well, if it's not going to change, how can my life ever change? The answer, when you change. And whether I'm talking to high school kids or business executives, my message is always the same, and it goes like this. The only way it gets better for you is when you get better. Let me give you the 4 major lessons in life to learn. Here's 4 majors. Studying the majors is good. In our weekend workshop, we teach that some people don't do well because they major in minor things. You got to be on the lookout at the end of every week, at the end of every month. You got to check to make sure you're not spending significant time on minor things. We go through that whole series, majors and minors. Now, let me give you 2 phrases before we get to the 4 majors. This will set it up, and you'll see where I'm going. 2 key phrases for your notes. Here's the first. Life and business is like the changing seasons. That's the first phrase. Life and business are like the changing seasons. One of the best ways to describe life, it's like the seasons. Frank Sinatra sings, life is like the seasons. Now here's the second phrase. Very important. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. And see, that's how life gets better for you. Not by chance, but by change. Now here's the 4 major lessons in life to learn. I have my first book finished, came out a couple of weeks ago. This is in it. The 4 major lessons in life to learn. Here they are. Number 1, learn to handle the winters. That's lesson 1. They come right after falls with regularity. Some are long, and some are short, and some are hard, and some are easy, but they keep coming. You must learn to handle the nights. They come right after days. You must learn to handle difficulty. It comes right after opportunity. You must learn to handle downturns. They always follow upturns. For the last 6,000 years, see, changing the sequence isn't going to happen. What you must learn is how to handle it. And there's all kinds of winters, right? The winter when you can't figure it out. The winter when everything goes smash. The winter when it turns upside down. The winter when it won't work, when you've run out of money and you have a broken heart. See, those are winter times. There's all kinds of winters, financial winters, social winters, personal winters. When your heart is broken in 1,000 pieces and the nights are extraordinarily long, your prayers seem to go no higher than your head. It's winter time. Barbara Streisand sings, it used to be so easy to talk about forever. What's more, S, how often do springs follow winter? Consistently, with regularity. 6,000 years, you can almost count on it. It's the opportunity that always comes. Days follow nights. Isn't that breathtaking? Opportunity follows difficulty. But this is what you must learn to do. Underline these two words in that key phrase. Take advantage. Underline those two. You must learn to take advantage of the spring. See, just because spring rolls around, there's no guarantee you will look good come fall. You have to do something with it. You have to get better at one of, in fact, two things in life. Planting in the spring or begging in the fall, or else get someone to do it for you. See, those are about the only alternatives. Now, this is what else you must do. Take advantage of the springs quickly, because there are only a handful of springs given to each of us. They don't come forever. Life is fairly brief, so you got to read every book you can get your hands on about what to do with your springs while they're here, and take advantage. They soon run out. The Beatles wrote, "Life is so short." And for John Lennon, it was extra short. But life is brief. Elton John sings, "She lived like a candle in the wind." It's brief. So whatever you are going to do with your life, you got to get at it. Don't just let the springs pass. The third major lesson in life to learn: how to protect your crops during the summer. You got to take care of what you start. Sure enough, when you've planted your garden in the spring, the busy bugs and the noxious weeds are out to take it. And here's the next piece of truth: they will take it unless you prevent it. And that's the third major skill to learn. You must learn to prevent the intruder from taking all the good you start. It's one of the challenges. Here are two key phrases on number 3s. The first one: all good will be attacked. On this planet, maybe not the next one we get to, but on this one, all good will be attacked. Every garden will be invaded. Not to think so is naive. And here's the second phrase: all values must be protected. Political values, social values, community values, family values, marriage values, friendship values, business values. Every garden must be tended throughout the summer. Third major lesson. Now here's number 4. The fourth major lesson in life to learn. Learn to reap in the fall without complaint. Learn to reap come harvest time without complaint. Assume total responsibility for what happens to you. It's one of the highest forms of human maturity, accepting full responsibility. It's the day you know you've passed from childhood to adulthood, the day you accept full responsibility. In another note, learn to reap in the fall without apology. Without apology if you do well, and without complaint if you don't. That's maturity. I used to have that long list of reasons why I was not doing well, to explain. You got to explain, right? Otherwise, you'll look bad. I used to have this funny list called reasons for not looking good, all together. I used to blame the government. I mean, you can believe that or not. It was at the top of my list. I had a lecture, blame the government. That was on the list. I used to blame taxes. Look what you got left after they take everything, and they expect you to do well. That was on my list too. Prices, that one's easy, right? You walk into the store with 20 bucks, come out with just a little half bag. So I had that on my list. I used to blame the weather, the traffic, my car, the manufacturers. I used to blame the company policy. I used to blame the training program. I blamed my negative relatives. They were always putting me down. I blamed my cynical neighbors. They're just selfish, looking out for themselves, won't lend you money. They were on my list. I used to blame the economy, the community. That's a pretty good list for not doing well, isn't it? I thought it was good. I'll never forget one day, Mr. Rohn, very kind, but he was also very blunt. And this was no exception, and I'm glad he was blunt. There's a lot of things I'd have missed if he wasn't blunt. One day, with a kind of a curious look on his face, he said, "Jim, just out of curiosity, tell me why you haven't done well up to now." Wow, what a question. I thought, well, so I won't look too bad. I'll go through my list. And this list I just gave you, I put that on him. And he was very patient. He let me go through the whole thing. The government, the weather, I went through this whole thing. When I finished, he looked my list over carefully. He said, "Mr. Rohn, big problem with your lists. You ain't on it." How brilliant. When I went to work for him a few months later, I learned quickly to tear up my list of reasons for not doing well, and I threw it away. And I got me a new piece of paper, and I put one word on it, me. There's a Black Heritage spiritual that says, "It's not my brother nor my sister, but it's me, O Lord, standing in need of prayer." See, I used to blame everything outside. And then let me give you a little philosophy that helped turn my life around. For your notes, here it is. It's not what happens that determines the quality or the quantity of your life. It's not what happens. And the reason is because what happens to about everyone the same. The sun went down all of us last night. A common event, an occurrence. And I found out that the same things can happen to two different people. One gets rich and one stays poor. Why is that? It's because it's not what happens, but rather it's what you do that changes everything. So that's a key phrase. It's not what happens, it's what you do. What happens is about the same. You may put that in parentheses here, same. What people do, that's what's different. Anything can happen, right? Everything can happen. I've heard all the stories. I've been one of the stories. Hey, we could all tell stories all night long, right? Happenings. Have you heard Murphy's Laws? Anyone here heard of Murphy's Laws? Okay, most of you have. Murphy had these laws. One of them was, if anything can go wrong, it will. That's one of Murphy's laws. He was not one of the great positive speakers of the day, but anyway, it's still true, right? Anything can go wrong. Everything can go wrong, for sure. I've fallen out of the sky so many times. Once to the tune of a couple of million, crushing. Took me a while to survive that one. Now, it wasn't much, but it was all I had. I mean, that's when it's much, right? When it's all you got. If you got 3 to go, you got 1 left. You ain't looking that bad. But when it all goes, has anyone been there when it all went? Anyone? Hey, we've all been there, right? When it all went, of course, it used to be a long time ago, right? When you ran out of money, got to 0, you were all through. Hell, now you can whistle right by 0, right? They will bury you. That's what they'll do. But see, those are the happenings, right? Everything can happen, anything can happen, but it's not the happenings, it's what you do about it. Someone says, yeah, but you don't understand the disasters I've had. Come on. Everyone's had their share. Disappointments are not special gifts reserved for the poor. Everyone has them. The difference is what you do about them. It's not the environment. I used to blame the environment, and I found it rains on the rich. So see, that won't help. 2 men wake up one morning. There's a rainstorm. One of them looks out his window, sees the rainstorm, and he says, wow, what a storm. With weather like this, they can't expect you to go out and make sales. He stays home. Same morning, the other guy looks out his window, sees the same storm, says, wow, what a storm. But he says, you know what? With weather like this, what a great day to go out and make sales. Most everybody will probably be home, especially the salesman. See, that is the distinction in how your life sorts out. It's not what works out, it's what you do. As such, here's one of the key inquiries of the night. Starting tomorrow, what are you going to do that will roll out an improvement in your life's bearing? Great inquiry. What are you going to do? Beginning tomorrow, that will make a distinction. Presently, check whether you don't follow through with something beginning tomorrow. It'll make a distinction. Think about what? It will be something similar. Also, see, that way you can think about what the following 5 years will be like. Check the last 5 out, since the following 5 will resemble the last 5, except a few significant key. Tomorrow, transform everything. Or then again, change a bit, or change something, or don't transform. It's choice time. You can do anything you desire. Yet it's great to know any day you wish you can change for what seems like forever. What might you at any point do beginning tomorrow? The organic products? Great inquiry. How might you at any point manage financial disarray? Enormous dissatisfaction. What can really be done with a messed up heart? What can really be done and it won't work? Great inquiry. So, assuming I had a word with you this evening, one-on-one, just you and me, I figure my own recommendation to you would be, this year, 1981, arrive at down within you and concoct some greater amount of those wonderful human gifts. They're there, ready to be used. And afterward, transform anything for you need to change. Also, I challenge you to do that on the grounds that you can change. In the event that you could do without the way things are for you, transform it. Assuming it sometimes falls short for you, change it. Assuming it doesn't satisfy you, transform it. On the off chance that it isn't sufficient, change it. Furthermore, I challenge you to do that since you can change. See, you absolutely never must be the same again after this evening, simply by decision. In the event that you could do without your current location, transform it. You're not a tree. Presently, let me give you 3 moves towards self-improvement. We should get down to the quick and dirty. What does it take to truly be improvements beginning tomorrow? It takes more than philosophical declaration. I know that. It additionally takes more than energy. I realize we're hearing a ton about energy nowadays. However, see, that just won't finish the work. We're still here on the old adages of the 30s, right? To be energetic, you should act excited. Yet see, that won't help. After you have jumped about, there are a few things you must do, or it isn't going to change. So, you can become amped up for lifting 200 pounds until you get to the rec center. And afterward, you want another fervor, and the new fervor is called discipline. Significant stage to human advancements, discipline. On the off chance that there's one thing to get invigorated over, that is all there is to it. Get invigorated over your capacity to cause yourself to do the vital. What might you at some point cause yourself to do beginning tomorrow? That would change it all? No, tell it. Presently, see, that is invigorating. On some random day, you can greatly adjust the course of your life. The fact that anyone makes murder a reasonable model. An individual on some random day can for all time modify the direction of their life. It just is a negative demonstration. In any case, similarly, as certain as you can commit a negative demonstration, you can likewise commit a positive demonstration and always adjust your life at whatever point you wish. All things considered, that is invigorating. Also, anything act could be that which completely changes you. The person at long last takes a shotgun to his vehicle and extinguishes each window, annihilates each tire, places 100 rounds in this ratty old thing, and he says, I have driven this humiliating thing for the last time. Furthermore, not exclusively will I never drive it from now on. No other individual will at any point drive it in the future. And he lets that shivering thing stand there for some time as a landmark to the day he said, today my life alters course. Presently, who can do that? Anyone. When might you do it? Any day you pick. Presently, here's the way to teach. Begin with the little trains. Get invigorated over the little disciplines and get right on those, since those will prompt the enormous ones. You can't handle the large difficulties in life except if you take on the little ones. Make a rundown of the multitude of things you can do. Get right on those. Train yourself for those, both for the outcomes and for the muscle and for the training, so that when life gives you a few major difficulties, you'll be prepared. You'll have the muscle, be that as it may. Check whether you don't deal with the little ones. You can't handle the large ones. All right, this is what else it takes for life change. Self-inspiration. Key expression, self-inspiration. I don't have any idea why we call it self-inspiration. It's actually the main kind there is. You must inspire yourself. Since I sorted out, you can't change individuals. They can change themselves, however, you can't transform them. Master knows, I've attempted. However, see, it won't work. Individuals need to change themselves. I took in a portion of those illustrations early. I constructed a little deals association way back in those early days. I'm 25. Furthermore, I had a few decent individuals. I said, I will make these individuals fruitful, assuming it kills me. I nearly passed on. I mean, you can't do that. See, I've found this. Great individuals are not prepared. They're found. You find great individuals. You don't make them great. You find them great. Preparing truly is with the end goal of finding great individuals. You don't require a lot of guidance for a decent individual, be that as it may. A lot of preparing likely means you got some unacceptable individual. So, you need to track down the ideal individuals. That is the way to finding a decent line of work done. One of the significant things we learn in the board example. Don't send your ducks to hawk school. Laughter, since it won't help. I mean, I'm telling you, it won't help regardless of how great your school is. And the little falcon identification and little bird of prey cap, I'm telling you, it won't help. It won't help. You can determine if your school's finished any grade, right? Is the point at which it's over, right? The duck goes for his most memorable hare and makes him a companion. You say, no, no. So it takes self-inspiration to truly modify your life. What's more, you would rather not give self-inspiration away to another person and make it another person persuading you. The person says, Kide, assuming somebody recently come by and turned me on. Imagine a scenario where they don't appear. All right, so you must have a better arrangement for your life. Are presently on the off chance that you're energized and you're prepared to change. Let me give you 3 moves toward begin life change. That can change your life, your personality, your way of life. Everything can change. Here's the means. Number 1, figure out how things work. The primary key to improving is find out to change your life. Truly, you want thoughts. There isn't anything an idea can't change. Furthermore, Rack showed me the serious issue is absence of a thought, not an issue. At first, I had no cash. I said to Mr. Rack, I have no cash. He said, that is not an issue. Presently, see, up to that point, I generally thought it was, correct? I was befuddled. He said, no, the issue is absence of a thought on the best way to make cash and riches. It isn't absence of cash. It's absence of thoughts. So assuming you get the thoughts, you can transform anything. Presently, to get thoughts, you want a steady investigation of finding out. Presently, Rack likewise said, when you find something that works, put the data in your diary. Try not to think carefully for a file organizer. Put it in your journal so you can do the following best thing. Redundancy, redundancy. Go over it, and assuming you rehash it, go over it, sure enough, sometime, some weird day, the thought takes root, begins to develop, and appears in your ledger and in your dress and your personality and your way of life. Yet catch the thoughts in your diary, figure out how things work. Rack gave me this word for my life to transform, he said. Study. Incredible word. Assuming that you wish to find success, study achievement. Assuming that you wish to be cheerful, study satisfaction. Assuming you wish to be well off, study riches. Try not to take a risk with it. Make it a review. Certain individuals simply go during that time with their fingers crossed. See, that will not do it. You must concentrate on the things that can change your financial, social, profound, individual life. Presently, here's a passing expression, and we'll have a few of these throughout the workshop. Here's the first. You may not be capable to do all you find out. I comprehend that you will be unable to do all you find out, but you should find out everything you can do. See, you wouldn't want to end up at the end of your life and discover that you've lived only 1/10 of it, and the other 9/10 went down the drain not for lack of opportunity, but for lack of information. So that's number. Learn how things work. Now, here's the best human virtue for learning: curiosity. Make a note of that. Curiosity. Be curious. You could add a word to it that will help adolescent curiosity. How far will kids go to know something? Enough to bug you. That's the phrase. They can ask 1,000 questions. You think they're through. They've got another 1,000. They'll push you to the edge. It's a virtue. When you need to know, be like a child. Jesus, the master teacher, said, in fact, unless you can become like little children, you might as well forget it. You don't have a chance. Extraordinary advice. You have to become like children in 4 ways, in my opinion. To be like a child. Number 1 is curiosity. Number 2 is excitement. Get excited like a child over your ability to make yourself do something for a change. 3rd is faith. Have faith like a child. Adults are too skeptical. And 4th is trust. Trust is a childlike virtue, but the rewards are incredible. So be like a child. Now, if you're curious, let me give you 3 ways to learn how to change anything. Any life direction, any aspect. Here are 3 ways to learn how to change anything. Number 1 is to read. Become a good reader. All the successful people I know and work with worldwide are good readers. Curiosity drives them to read. They want to know. They just read. Read, become a good reader. Well, that's my opinion. Listen to the other speakers and me and make up your own mind. Don't be a follower, be a student. Okay, I say for life change, you have to read. One way to learn is from your own experiences, but another way to learn is from other people's experiences. See, one book could save you 5 years if you read it. Did you know there are books on how to be stronger, more decisive, be a speaker, be a leader, have a better impact on other people, develop your character? Did you know there are books on that and people don't read them? How can you explain that? And they can read. Did you know that many successful people have written their stories in books and they recorded how they did it and people don't read it? How can you explain that? The person's busy, I guess. You know, you get caught up. The person says, well, yeah, you work where I work. By the time you fight home, it's late. You've got to have dinner, watch a little TV, get to bed. You can't stay up half the night reading. And the guy's behind on his car payment. Well, good worker, hard worker, sincere. But you have to be better than sincere, and you have to work hard. Otherwise, at the end of your life, you'll end up cold, stony broke. You have to be better than a good worker. You have to be a good reader. The whole world is governed by laws. The universe, in fact, laws. We call it the law of electricity. We call it the law of gravity. There are mathematical laws, physical laws, speed and velocity laws, agricultural laws. There are all kinds of laws. Now that we find ourselves on this spinning planet, you just have to learn what I call the setup. Learn the setup of life. Now, we didn't set it up, but we're here, so you've got to learn it. And we should learn the setup for 2 main reasons. Number 1, to keep from getting hurt. It's one of the major reasons for learning. So you won't get hurt financially, socially, physically. You can get hurt just not knowing. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is poverty. Ignorance is tragedy. Ignorance is loss. You have to know, or you're going to get hurt. It's good to know not to step off the 10-story window. That's great information. Now, what if a guy didn't know and he steps off? Now, he's dead at the bottom. Somebody says, well, the poor guy didn't know. You have to know, or you will get hurt. Now, here's a parenthesis. You don't have to like the setup. I don't ask you to like how things are. That's not what's important. But it is important to learn how things are. Okay, so you don't have to like it, but you should learn it. That's what I say to the kids. Make sure you get the information. What you think about it, that's up to you. What you're going to do with it, that will soon be up to you. but make sure you get it. See, there's nothing worse than being stupid. Nothing. I mean, being broke is bad, but being stupid is awful. And what's really bad is being broke and stupid, right? That's about the end of the world. I mean, there isn't much worse than that unless you're sick, broke, and stupid. I mean, that's it, right? There's nowhere else to go, so make sure you get the information. It's important. You don't have to like it, but learn it. If this big monster thing lifts up in the sky, hangs there for a while, then releases, comes crashing down, boom, shakes the ground for 5 miles. And then this big monster thing lifts back up into the sky, hangs there for a while, releases again, comes crashing down, boom, shakes the ground for 5 miles. It just keeps doing that. This big, huge thing lifting up and then crashing down, boom. Now, you might come along one day and say, that's got to be a stupid design, which is okay. You're entitled to your opinion, but the first thing you should learn to do is get out of its way, right? That's number one. You might have a great moral argument. You might want to shake your finger at it, but do it from a distance, right? So you don't get crushed. It's called your basic intelligence. So, number one, learn so you won't get hurt, even if you don't like it. Learn. Now, here's the second reason for learning the setup. To benefit, it's called the plus of life. And that's what life is, right? Both minus and plus. The minus is loss, sorrow, misery, failure, depression. But life is also happiness, prosperity, good feelings. So here's the key. Learn to get on the good side of the way things work. Now, here are two of the basic laws, and we'll take our break. Rohn taught me these. They come from the Bible. Now, again, I'm a novice, okay? When it comes to the Bible, I'm not an expert. So you'll sort of have to take my way of putting it, but here they are. The first one is the law of use. The law of use, and it goes like this. Whatever you don't use, you lose. Lack of use causes loss. On this planet, maybe not the next one, but on this one, if you tie your arm to your body, leave it there long enough, you'll never use it again. It's done for the arm. Now, it may not be done for you, but it's over for the arm. The only way to keep the use of this arm is to keep using it. If you stop, you lose. Automatically, they don't bring it up for a vote. You lose automatically when you quit. Now, the same thing that goes for your arm goes for your brain. Mindset, the same thing goes for all the human virtues. Ambition, unused decline. Overpowering tendencies, unused decrease. It doesn't grow, it diminishes. Faith, unused, decreases. It's a law. Vitality, unused, diminishes. Energy, unused, decreases. The guy says, well, I'm going to save up my energy. You can't do that. That's like trying to save today and put it on the end of the year. See, you can't do that. They'll come and take you away. If you don't use today, what? It's lost. The guy says, well, I'll work twice as hard tomorrow to make up for it. See, that's foolish. You could have done that today. Unused is lost. A talent unused is lost. An ability unused is lost. So here's one of the key statements of the evening. Take another inventory of yourself. Starting tomorrow, new project, take a fresh inventory. And make sure that all of your talent, ability, mindset, resourcefulness, vitality, overpowering tendencies, faith, courage, make sure that all you've got is being used. Otherwise, you lose. Presently, one of the most mind-blowing delineations of the law of purpose is a Bible story called The Anecdote of the Talents. The talent story is a fascinating story. If you haven't read it in some time, just review it. It's a good story, an old story. It says there was a master with 3 servants. He got them together one day and he said to the 3, I have these talents. And in those ancient days, a talent was a measure of gold. He told the 3 servants, take these talents and see what you can do with them while I'm gone. I'm taking a journey and I'll be away for a while. When I return, we'll get together Go over the books and see how you did. He said, here are 5 of these talents for you 5. Here are 2 of them for you 2. And here's one for you, 1. The master said, take those talents and see what you can do with them. When I come back, we'll get together and we'll go over it all. The servant said, okay, master, and he takes off. According to the old story, the master returns from his trip. When he gets back, he gets the 3 servants together, and as he said he would, he asks, how did it go with those talents? The one who received 5 said, well, I took the 5 talents you gave me and I put them to work. It was a bit shaky at first, but things eventually got going and I poured it on. My talents grew to 7, 8, 9, 10. I doubled my talents from 5 to 10. Books will show, the master said, one amazing job or something to that effect. He then asked the one who received 2 talents what happened. That servant said, about the same thing happened to me. I put those 2 talents to work, poured it on, and they grew to 3 and then to 4. I doubled my talents from 2 to 4. Books will show, the master said, well done. He then turned to the one who received 1 talent and asked, what happened? That servant said, well, I took the talent you gave me and I carefully wrapped it up. I dug a hole and buried it and camouflaged it, I guess, so no one would take it. Luckily, no one got it. I knew you were going to be here today, so I dug it up. Here it is, safely wrapped. I didn't lose it while you were gone. According to the old story, the master said, take that talent from him and give it to the man who has 10. Now, you might say, well, I don't like that arrangement. The poor guy's only got 1 talent. He's already got 10. It should be more even. Remember, I didn't ask you to like it, but this one I would ask you to learn because it basically means whatever you don't use, you lose. It's a law. So learn well the law of use. Now here's the second one, and we're going to take our break. The second law from the Bible is called the law of sowing and reaping. We've probably heard it so often, we could quote it. It says, whatever you sow, that you will reap. It's pretty blunt, hopefully clear. Here is my first thought on the law of sowing and reaping. Don't try to beat it. It's like trying to sit on the sun in the morning, keeping it from coming up. You'll have better luck. Whatever you sow, you reap. Now, for a good part of my life, I was a bit mixed up on how this applies. I knew I wasn't reaping too well, that I recognized. My problem was I was confused about what was causing it. Remember me with the funny list? I thought those were the reasons why it wasn't going so well. Then Mr. Shoemaker gave me the clue that helped me figure it out. He said, Mr. Owen, I have another way for you to quote this law that will show you where the problem is so you can go to work on it right away. All you need to know is where the problem is. Then you can go to work on it. So he quoted the law another way, and I figured out what my problem was. Here's how you quote the law. Whatever you reap, you have sown. Now, I realized what my problem was. Whatever you reap, you've sown. If you don't like the crop, who do you look up to for answers? Whoever sowed it. And what do you find? Who planted your crop? The answer in the mirror. What I finally learned to do come fall was to go to the mirror. That's where you go. And if necessary, you say, a few thin carrots, I am responsible. Where were you last spring? Asleep. Didn't you read the books? Did you break your hoe? Let me give you 7 key points to the law of sowing and reaping. Let's tick right down through the list of 7, and then it'll be break time. 7 points to planting and reaping. The law of sowing and reaping is negative. That's number 1, which simply means if you sow bad, you reap bad. This is somewhat 3rd grade, but it doesn't hurt to go over the basics. If you plant thistle seeds, you don't get pumpkins. Fair enough, no use looking for pumpkins. John says, why no pumpkins? Come on, John. The law's negative. That's the result. The law's positive, which simply means if you sow good, you reap good. If you plant pumpkin seeds, you don't get thistles. Not from pumpkin seeds. Mother Nature won't play tricks on you or laugh in the corner and push thistles up from planting pumpkin seeds. She won't do that. You will get pumpkins from pumpkin seeds. And the reason is because the law is positive. I got excited when I learned the full dimension of this. See, you don't get what you sow, but rather, you always reap much more than what you sow. So the third key word is more. You don't get back what you put out. You get much more than what you put out. And it works both positively and negatively. On the negative side, it said, assuming that you sow to the breeze, you harvest the hurricane. So are you prepared to get that, or will you be credulous? See, anyone could, regardless of whether you ever will. See, that is the issue. Furthermore, here's a good question to ask. Whose plan are we buying? The question is, who's got you convinced to do what you're doing? Who has you talked into your current plan? See, a long time from now, you will most likely show up. The inquiry is where, but see, anyone, if you want to, can go looking for a good plan, pick it, and start. And sure enough, as the time passes, as it certainly will, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, then you'll be ending up wearing what you want to wear, driving what you want to drive, living where you want to live, become what you want to become. But now is the time to fix the next 10 years. And who can? Anyone. Here's number 6, the 6th key to sowing and reaping. This is leveling with you now, as we promised to do. There's one thing better than reality, and that is the whole truth. And here's part of the whole truth of the law of sowing and reaping. Number 6 is, you could lose. There are times when you just lose, no matter what you do. It's that kind of planet. You reap what you sow. Yes, but what does that mean? Yes, but, well, the farmer plants his crop in the spring, takes care of it all summer, loves his family, works 10, 12 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. He's a good man. Come fall, he has a beautiful crop and deserves all of it. But the day before he sends the combines into the field, a hailstorm comes along and beats it all into the ground, which means you lose. Someone asks, well, what did I do wrong? The answer is nothing. It's just that kind of planet. Sometimes it will hail on your crop and spoil your otherwise good plans. So you got to prepare for that, or you will be naive. It's just part of the life arrangement. And don't ask me why. I wasn't in on some of the original decisions here, so I don't know how it got set up. But there are just times when sometimes you lose. That's part of life. But now, here's number 7, the 7th key to sowing and reaping. It goes like this. It's just another way of citing the same law. And it goes like this. If you don't sow, that's just another way of citing the law. If you don't sow, what? You don't reap. You don't have a chance. So if you look at your plan tomorrow, you might come to the deep end. I got to get something going. How true? Get you some sowing and going. And remember, you have plenty of time. You have all the time there is. Some people spend enough TV time to make a fortune. The latest article on TV watching in this country, according to the latest article, the average TV is on in this country, in each family, 7 hours a day, called the Big 7. I asked a guy one time, what does TV cost? He said, about $450. I said, you forgot to look at the price tag? He said, what do you mean? I know I'm a TV watcher. I said, that TV costs you, in my opinion, at least $12,000 a year to watch it. Not to own it. Owning it's cheap. Watching it is what's expensive. And I said, hey, $12,000 a year is a lot to pay to watch TV. That's a lot to pay a little, but not $12,000. And he's the guy that said, I hope pay TV never comes. All right, we're trying to cover a bit much tonight. I realize that. But my time schedule is such that we just have to kind of give it all to you and let you figure the rest out. I wish we had plenty of time for questions and answers and that whole thing, but our time is just limited. However, we are trying to go through an awful lot. I realize that. But looks like everyone's getting it. It's about the note-taking. This group I've seen in quite a while. Fantastic. Does anyone have 5 pages yet? Anyone? Oh, great. Incredible. All right. Maybe you heard the story about the preacher down in Texas, the southern part of the country. He was a preacher back in the horse and buggy days, and he was very good being a preacher, and a lot of people used to come and hear him preach. And one day, he set up his tent in one of these Texas towns and expected a big crowd as usual to come here and preach. And he got there, first evening of the tent revival, walked in 7:30, time to start, and to his amazement, the tent was empty. He thought, well, something must be wrong. So he waited till 7:45. No one showed up. 8 o'clock, zip. One solitary cowboy wandered up on his horse, cleans his horse up outside, came in, sat down on the front seat, right waiting for something to happen. The preacher thought, well, at least I better go down and talk to the cowboy. So he walks down, talks to the cowboy, and he says, Cowboy, I'm the preacher. And he said, I don't know what to tell you. Something's gone wrong. He said, this tent should be full of people. He said, I'm embarrassed. He said, you're the only one that showed up. And he said, I really don't know what to do. And the cowboy said, well, I'm not a preacher, so I really can't tell you what to do. You know, I said, I'm just a cowboy. But, he said, I know this. If I went out to feed my cows and only one showed up, I'd at least feed it. The preacher thought, hey, the cowboy is right. If you have a good idea to share, you should share it, whether there's 1 or 1,000. So he got kind of inspired by this conversation, and he jumped up on the stage, started to preach as if the tent was full of people, just exploded. And he went for 1 hour and 15 minutes, just kept rolling. Finally, and when he finished, he came down off the stage, talked to the cowboy again, says, well, cowboy, what did you think of my message? And the cowboy said, well, I'm not a preacher, so I really can't tell you, you know. He said, I'm just a cowboy. But, he said, I know this. If I went out to feed my cows and only one showed up, I'd feed it, but I wouldn't dump the whole load on it. But, so if it seems like we're dumping the whole load tonight, I guess we are, but golly, everyone's doing fine. I'm having a good time. I appreciate the response here tonight. Okay, the next topic is setting goals. Let me show you what turned my life every way. A bit free. Mr. Rack dropped this idea on me. Changed me completely. Setting goals. This can easily happen if you don't set goals, letting life easily decay into making a living rather than planning a life. And we all have a choice. Make a living or plan a life. It's easy to get trapped by financial necessity and settle for existence rather than substance. That's easy. But the best advice I can give you on how to break out of that trap is to figure out to put forth objectives. Mr. Rack put it to me this way. He said, Jim, if you had enough reasons, you could do the most incredible things. I never forgot how he put that. If you have enough reasons, see, reasons will change your life. Mr. Rack told me, he said, Mr. Owen, I think you have plenty of wisdom. You've got a lot of talent. You have plenty of ability. Probably what you lack is a lot of reasons. He said, I don't think your current bank balance is a true indication of your level of intelligence. I was happy to hear that. He said, I think you're much smarter than your current bank balance indicates. And that turned out to be true. I was much smarter. Of course, my first question was, well, why isn't it bigger? And he said, you lack enough reasons. You have enough intelligence, but not enough reasons. So see, reasons can completely change your life. Well, this is what else I learned. Reasons come first. Answers come second. You don't get the answers to do well until you get the reasons. Life has a strange way of holding on to all the answers and only surrenders them to people that are inspired by reasons. So reasons make the difference in how your life works out. Now, what are some of the reasons for doing well? Let's go through a quick list called reasons for doing well. First is personal reasons. Some people do well for recognition. Some people do well for respect. Some people do well for the way it makes them feel. They love the feeling of being a winner. Those are good reasons. I have a few mogul companions that continue to work 10, 12 hours daily, making more millions. Also, it's not on the grounds that they need the cash. This is on the grounds that they need the delight and the fulfillment and the joy that comes from being a steady victor. Furthermore, see, it's not only the cash at any rate, it's the excursion, not the cash. Every so often, somebody tells me, boy, in the event that I had $1 million, I'd never work one more day in my life. That is most likely why the great master sees to it that they don't get their million right. They'd stop. They'd stop. All right, next is family reasons. Certain individuals do incredibly well for others, and that is strong. Individuals can enormously influence each other. Now and again, we will get things done for somebody else we won't accomplish for ourselves. We're made like. I met a man one time who said, Mr. Owen, to do everything I like to do with my family all over the planet, I got to have basically $250,000 a year. I thought, unimaginable. Might a person's family at any point influence him that much? And the response is, obviously, how lucky are individuals that find themselves significantly impacted by somebody for individual accomplishment. Also, we are impacted. The essayist of A New Melody said, if not for you, the colder time of year would hold no spring, couldn't hear a robin sing, I just wouldn't understand without yourself. So we can be impacted. That may be one of the most invigorating motivations to do well, finding somebody. At the point when Andrew Carnegie kicked the bucket, the small little Scotsman that fabricated a major steel industry, when he passed on, they opened up his work area. Also, in one of the work area drawers, they tracked down a sheet of paper. On that piece of paper, Mr. Carnegie had composed his objective for his life, and he composed it when he was in his 20s. On that piece of paper, it said, I will spend the principal half of my life collecting cash. I will spend the last 50 of my life nurturing it all away. What an objective. He got so enlivened by that objective that the first 50 of his life, he amassed $450 million. And the last 50 of his life, he parted with everything. Great inquiry this evening. What did you turn on? What has you bombarded, far away to rise and shine early and keep awake until late and hit it day in and day out? Next question, what has you switched off? At the point when I tracked down the responses to those two questions, my life detonated into change. I at long last figured out what had me switched off, and I got that relieved. And afterward, I got me a long enough rundown of motivations to turn me on. Also, when the lights happen for me at age 25, they won't ever go out. I've dropped out of the sky a couple of times. In any case, I've never lost that drive to make something one of a kind out of my life. See, reasons change for what seems like forever. Presently, there's one more rundown of reasons called low-down, hard little reasons. Some of the time, those little reasons are the most powerful reasons that can completely change you. Once in a while, it doesn't take a lot. I presently convey a few $100 in my cash cut. It's a couple $100, yet it was one of those reasons that turned my life around. Not long before I met Mr. Show, I heard a thump at the entryway. I go to the entryway, and there's a young lady remaining there, about this tall, selling girl. Also, she gave me quite possibly of the best deal introductions I've heard. Exceptional bargain, a few flavors, this entire bundle of stuff, $2. Also, with a major grin, she cordially requested that I purchase, and I needed to. Huge issue. I'm destitute. I don't have $2. Also, right up till now, I can recall the aggravation and the shame. I'm a dad, I'm a spouse, I've been to school, I'm working, I'm 25. I don't have $2. Also, I would have rather not told her that for some explanation. So I did my thought process was next best. I deceived it. I said, hey, look, I proactively purchased parts of Girl Scout trees. I've actually got bounty stacked in the house. which was false. In any case, it appeared to get me free for the occasion. She said, well, golly, that is awesome. Thank you kindly. Also, she disappeared. At the point when she left, I shut the entryway, and that was the day I shared with myself. I would rather not live like this any longer. I've had it with lying, and I've had it with being poor. I'm never going to let this happen to me at any point down the road. I guaranteed that day I would fill in as hard as conceivable and would continuously convey bounty. Took me a short time. In any case, presently I do. It was one of those reasons. Furthermore, I surmise I convey a lot for two reasons. One is the manner in which it causes me to feel, yet additionally, on the off chance that I catch another Girl Scout selling treats, right? I'm prepared. I left the Bank of America one time up in Saratoga, California, where I used to live. Two young ladies selling treats right outside the bank. Great spot. A few young ladies association they're working for, right? I come leaving the bank. This first young lady approaches me. She said, mister, might you want to get some candy? I said, I most likely would. What kind is it? She said, it's almond rocco. I said, my golly, that is my number one. She said, great. I said, how much is it? She said, it's simply $2. I thought, staggering. I said, the number of boxes of that sweets have you got? She said, 5. Furthermore, her little companion was remaining there. She was selling candy too. I said, how many boxes have you got? She said, I've got 4. I said, that is 9. I'll take them all. They said, truly? I said, no doubt, it's my number one. I have a few companions. I'll pass them around. They got so energized, put this sweets together. I rest in my pocket. Gave them $18. When I have the sweets and they have the cash, that first little young lady looked into gazes toward me. She says, mister, you are truly something. Could that might you at any point envision? Burning through $18 and have somebody address you directly and say, you are truly something. Presently, you know why I convey weighty. Right? I won't miss any longer. Is only one of those reasons that made a difference to transform me. One of my quick and dirty reasons was budget finance. Budget finance used to squash my spirit. Way back in those early days, I had fallen for one of those combination advances. Well, you take all your little hard to take care of bills and put them into one major difficult to take care of bill, right? I would get 4 or 5 installments behind. This one person used to call me day and night. I don't believe they're permitted any longer to annoy me. He took steps to run me before the judge, took steps to destroy my credit, took steps to humiliate my family. One day he said, we will come get your vehicle, drag it backside up down the road before your neighbors. Furthermore, back in those days, I'm penniless, I'm hopeless. There's no way around it. Yet I always remembered how the person treated me. Also, when I met Mr. Show and I got my life begun fixed and the cash began to stream, that was one of my first projects. I poured it on constantly. I had last set up all the cash I owed him, which was extensive. I picked a day for the result, and when the result day came, I put the cash in little bills in a major briefcase. Also, I strolled into the budget finance office on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles. The person who badgered me so frequently, his work area was around 3 back. I strolled straight up to his work area, surprised it. He thought about what I was doing there. It was whenever I'd first been there since I acquired the cash, right? Without saying a word, I opened up this attache, unloaded this heap of cash all over his work area. I said, count it, it's everything there. I will never be back, and I pivoted and stomped out. Now, that probably won't be honorable. In any case, in the event that you haven't attempted it, you have to one time. Yapla. It very well may be the day that turns your life around. All you want is an explanation that turns you on. But ooh, One of my dear companions, Robert, the Puby Bobby, used to be a teacher in Lindsay, olive capital of the world. Bobby showed school quite a while, got a little tired of showing school, one day concluded he needed to get into deals. So, without telling anyone, he'd quite recently up and quit his place of employment showing school and bounced into deals. At the point when he did, his sibling ridiculed him, chuckled at him, put him down, said, "Robert's flown off the handle. Had a steady employment showing school. Now he believes he's a salesman. He will go down the channel, lose all that. Just put him down something savage." Bobby said, "The manner in which my sibling acted when I got into deals, he said, that made me so frantic I'd chosen to get rich." What's more, my inquiry for you this evening, is it conceivable to get that frantic? Obviously, abundance doesn't involve insight. It's a question of motivation. Today, Robert is one of my mogul companions. Bobby's rich. Honest Sinatra said one time, "The best retribution is enormous achievements." Hey, get you a sufficiently long rundown of reasons. So after this evening, you never need for motivation. You probably won't have every one of the appropriate responses immediately, yet you can find the solutions on the off chance that you can get the reasons. Presently, let me give you somewhat basic equation for objective setting. Okay. We require more than 2 hours on the end of the week for the entire 10-year plan. We don't possess energy for that this evening, yet let me kick you off with just the right amount of basic recipe. First Iraq gave me, and perhaps this will be useful. First of all, I've isolated objectives into 2 sections. First is long reach. Long-range objectives. That is your fantasies for the following 3, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, really the remainder of your life. Your fantasies, you must continue to dream. Ronald Reagan, president, said to the joint meeting of Congress half a month back, "The republic is a fantasy, and on the off chance that we don't continue to dream, we will lose the republic." Your better future is a fantasy for yourself and for your family. Where do you need to go? What is it that you believe should do? What is it that you need to be? What is it that you need to see? You have the fantasies, dreams. There's a book of scriptures expressed that says, without dreams and dreams, individuals die. You've got to have something to go for that motivates the heart and the spirit. Dreams, from the offspring of Sanchez, it says, take the pieces from starving warriors, they won't pass on. Take the bread from hungry kids, they won't cry. Be that as it may, without dreams, we as a whole will pass on. You must dream. Try not to lose your fantasies. For yourself, for your future, for your family, the fantasies of affection and experience and travel and doing things, becoming something novel on your excursion here. Try not to lose your fantasies. Do some dreaming. That is long-range objectives. You must have those, so that is number 1. Here's the second piece of objectives. Short reach, short-range objectives. That is your objectives for tomorrow. This week, this month, this year. The short term, we call the certainty manufacturers. Since supposing that you set up something short reach, put it all on the line, get it, lock onto it, buckle down, achieve it. That begins building your unmistakable inclinations to go for your fantasies. Presently, I've isolated objectives into 3 classes. They are right here. Number 1 is monetary. That is your objectives for cash. Pay, business, benefits, creation, financial matters. Ensure you have your financial aspects very much arranged. Financial matters assumes a significant part in everyone's life. Financial aspects is significant, which implies it should be carefully all around anticipated tomorrow, this week, this month, this year, long reach. Consider the possibility that you inquire as to whether you could see their fastidiously all around arranged rundown of monetary objectives. What might they likely say? They'd say, "You're a nut of some sort or another. You should be insane. Hey, I made out what progress is. Achievement is doing what the disappointments will not do. Ensure you have your financial matters well arranged. It'll place you in the main 5%. One of the key little subjects we discussed toward the end of the week is the 7 fundamentals for riches and joy. Furthermore, that is one of very much arranged financial matters. It's a major in the event that you need to do well. Join the main 5%. Anyone in this room can join the main 5%, assuming that you will. Recently, here's the second classification of objectives, things. Make a rundown of the things you need. Furthermore, my rundown of things, now I put everything, little things as well as significant things. It doesn't make any difference how little it is. It goes on my rundown. I used to simply put significant things, vehicles, homes. I don't do that any longer. I presently load my rundown with everything. What's more, the explanation is important, for the fun of having a rundown is verifying it. That is all there is to it. Kid, toward the day's end, in the event that you can go. Got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. Whatever it is, right? You get into the propensity. So, load up your rundown, the things you need. Presently, when you verify something major, celebrate. That is a significant highlight make, so praise your accomplishments. Celebrate the good life. Host a get-together. At the point when you arrive at something you've worked for some time. We as a whole develop from 2 encounters. One is known as the torment of losing. The other one is known as the delight of winning. We want both of them. Enhance them as much as possible, which likewise implies make losing difficult. If you set up something, played around, didn't get it, put it on yourself. On the opposite side, in the event that you got it, salute yourself. Self-congratulations is an indication of development. Looking for congrats is an indication of youthfulness. However, hello, winning and losing. See, that is what everything revolves around. Presently, certain individuals have such fair lives, toward the day's end, they don't have any idea whether they're winning or losing. They got no clue. Folks simply go through the day with his fingers crossed. There's a superior way. All right? Here's the third classification of objectives. Self-improvement. Set up those objectives, individual advancement objectives. That is your objectives, to be more grounded, more definitive. Be a speaker, be a pioneer, get familiar with a language, a wide range of abilities. Okay. The entire end of the week class was intended to work on the entirety of your abilities with the goal that you leave more gifted. Furthermore, that is the thing you need, the individual advancement abilities that draw in, that carries beneficial things to your life. The individual you become more talented. Presently, this is a significant bundle to deal with. Financial matters, things, self-awareness for in the not-so-distant future, this month, this drawn-out range. Okay, that will kick you off. Presently, here's the straightforward equation for defining objectives. It goes like this. A, work on your objectives. That is stage 1, work on them. Furthermore, I put the word work there purposely. Laying out objectives is plain hard work. I don't need to mess with you. We haven't come here this evening to mess with one another. That's why it makes it work, you know. It worked for many individuals. Just let it slide. It's work. Many individuals really buckle down on their work, but they don't buckle down on their future. They just let that slide. And the work involved is making plans. I know most people don't do that. I understand that, but don't let that be you. A guy says, well, yeah, you work where I work. By the time you fight home, it's late. You got to eat, wash yourself, and watch a little TV. Get to bed. You can't sit up half the night planning, and the guys be high. Good worker, hard worker, sincere. But you have to be more than sincere, more than hardworking. You have to be better than a good worker. You have to be a good planner. Someone once wisely said, people who fail to plan are planning to fail. Well said. So work on your goals. Is step 2. Get your goals on paper. That's so important. I teach my staff all over the world to put your goals in your journal because one of the most important people you need to study is yourself. So, here's the list of goals I put together 3 weeks ago. It's the goals I set up 2 years ago. Here are some of the changes I made. Improvement of my priorities. I scratched these off, I put these on, I've gotten these. Study your accomplishments. Study what your desires are. Write them down. Write them down. Here's another reason for writing your goals down. It shows you're serious about doing better. And to do better, you have to get serious. You don't have to be grim, but you must be serious. Everybody hopes things will get better. Everybody hopes. Poor people hope. That should tell you something. It means the future doesn't get better by hope. It gets better by plan. I used to have the disease called passive hope. It's a disease, it's bad. Probably what's worse than that is happy hope. Now that's truly terrible. That's bad. Happy hope. The guy's 50 and he's broke and he's still smiling. See, that's not good. So, get serious with your goals, put them on paper, write them down. There are all sorts of goals. His goals, her goals, their goals, business goals, financial goals, financial independence goals, family goals. I mean, there are so many things to work on. If you don't get busy and work on it, sure enough, the time will pass, and sure enough, years from now, you'll wind up where you don't want to be, wearing what you don't want to wear, driving what you don't want to drive, being what you don't want to be. Now's the time to fix it. Now, here's the third step to your goals. Check the size of your goals and the types of goals. How big they are affects you. And here's one of the important phrases of the night. Your goals are affecting you, whatever they are. Your goals affect your handshake, your attitude, your goals affect the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you dress. All day, we're being influenced by our goals. Now, some people have goals, but they have such petty goals. The effect is bad. I asked a guy one time, what are your goals for this month? The guy said, look, if I could just scrape up enough money to pay these horrible bills, that was his goal. I'm not saying it isn't a goal, it's a goal, but it's such a crummy goal. The effect is bad. You don't leap up on Monday morning and say, oh boy, another chance to go out and scrape up the money to pay my horrible bills. So you don't do that. Generally you say, oh, not another Monday. And some people have so given up on life, they have joined the Thank God It's Friday Club. How sad. Surely those are the same people when life is over for them will say, thank God it's over. Let me give you a Bible philosophy that shows how to get anything you want. That's the title of the next series in no ties. How to get anything you want from the Bible. Now again, I'm an amateur when it comes to the Bible. I'm not a scholar, but this I can quote, and I think that will be sufficient. How to get anything you want. Here's what it says if you're ready. It says, that's it. End of notes. Ask. If there's one art in life to learn incredibly well, that's got to be one of them. The art of asking. What does ask mean? Ask means, what do you want? And the formula is staggering. It says ask, and what? A guy should investigate that. He says, yeah, but you work where I work. By the time you fight home, it's late. You got to gulp down a bite. Watch a little TV. Get to bed. You can't sit up half of the night asking. And the guys, BC, you have to be better than a good worker. You have to be a good asker. Now, let me give you 3 key points on asking and getting. This can change it all. Number 1, asking is the beginning of receiving. Asking starts a unique process, mental and emotional. I don't really know how it works. It just works. It's like pressing a button, and this machinery starts to work. I don't know how, it just works. There are a lot of things you don't need to know how, just work them. Some people are always studying the roots. Others are picking the fruit. I mean, it depends on what end of it you want to get in on. Asking is the beginning of receiving, so start the process. Here's number two. Receiving isn't the problem. Receiving is automatic. Now, if that's true, receiving isn't the problem, what's the problem? Failure to ask might be one of your major problems. I don't know, check it out. The guy says, oh, now I see it. I got up last year and hit it every day, but there's not a piece of paper with my goals on it. Good work, poor asking. So you got to change that. Here's number three, receiving is like the ocean. There's plenty, especially in California. It's like an ocean here. Success isn't hard to find. It isn't rationed, and you stepped up to the window, and it was all gone. No, it's like an ocean here. Now, if that's true, what's the problem? Well, some people go to the ocean with a teaspoon. Have you got the picture? See, what you want to do, considering the size of the ocean, is exchange your teaspoon for at least a bucket. And you'll be more effective down at the ocean. Kids won't laugh at you, right? All right, now there are two ways to ask, and we'll wrap up goal setting. Two ways. Here's number one. Ask with intelligence. It didn't say ask keenly, but I'm sure it meant that. Don't murmur. You get nothing by murmuring. Be clear, be specific. Intelligent asking means how wide, how high, how soon, when, what size, what color, how much. Define what you want and describe what you want. In the weekend course, we teach goals become like a magnet. They pull you in that direction, and the better you describe them, the more they pull. So ask intelligently. Here's number two, ask with faith. That's the childish part of the equation. Believe you can get what you want like a child. Not adults are too skeptical. So the formula really reads, make plans like an adult, believe in them like a child, and the most incredible things will happen. Just try it for 90 days. Just try it. You can always go back to the old ways. Just try it, just 90 days, 90 days. Now here's the last qualifying phrase on goal setting, as we promise to qualify everything. And it simply goes like this. Remember, you won't get everything you want. And we've already studied the reason for that. Sometimes it hails on your crop and rains on your parade. It's just kind of a planet. So you won't get everything you want. But if you work this goal-setting formula, you can get plenty for wealth and happiness. Okay, that's goal setting. We use it all over the world. We recommend it. Now, maybe it won't work as well for you as it has for me. I don't know, maybe not. But what if it did? You've got to try. Okay. Here is the last subject, the day that turns your life around. Let me just quickly give you a list of 4 emotions that can change your life in one day. Emotions are powerful. Sometimes it doesn't take much to alter your whole life course. Okay, here they are. Number 1, disgust, powerful emotion. Disgust says, I've had it. See, that could be the day you can say, I've had it. And whether you've had it with something small or something big, the day you can say, I've had it may not be the day it ends, but the day it begins. That's what I said when that Girl Scout left my door when I'm 25. I give her the big lie she leaves. I say, I don't want to live like this anymore. I've had it with lying and being broke. Powerful day. The man's finally had it with mediocrity. He's had it with being a loser. He's finally had it with those terrible sick feelings inside, knowing his wife is at the grocery store, seeing 2 cans of beans, one marked 37 cents, one marked 39 cents, and the guy sick inside knows his wife will buy the 37-cent can, and she doesn't like the brand. You know why she will buy the 37-cent can? To save 2 cents? The guy, sick inside, finally says, I've had it. Be on my knees in the dust. We're not living to look for pennies like this anymore. Could be the day that turns your life around, the day you can say, I've had it. He walks into his closet and tears everything in it to pieces and says, I've worn this embarrassing stuff for the last time. And not only will I never wear it again, no one else will ever wear it again. Make an act that says, I've had it. Power. Here's the next one. Decision is powerful. What ties in knots in the pit of your stomach, right? Waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat trying to decide? We sometimes call it inner civil war. Well, what will I do? Well, for success, you must decide. The best advice I can give you came from a wealthy friend of mine who said, if it's easy, do it easy. If it's hard, do it hard. Just do it. If you went home tonight and in the next few days cleaned up a whole list of decisions, that could furnish enough motivation for the next 10 years. I found this many times after you've decided. Getting on with it is easier than deciding. Sometimes decision is the hardest part. Here's the next emotion. Desire, wanting it bad enough. And I don't know how to tell you to want to. That's something you have to come up with. There are two things I know about desire. Number one, it comes from inside, not outside. You don't send off for it. Number two, I know desire can be triggered by something. Who knows what it might be? Sometimes desire waits and sleeps for something to happen. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a song, maybe it's a sermon, maybe it's a lecture, a class, maybe it's the conversation of a friend, an incident, an event. Who knows? All the advice I can give you is what I give my staff. It goes like this: welcome every human experience. You never know which one is going to turn everything on. Yes, even the bad experiences. Sometimes from the bitterest experience comes the greatest awakening. So, let down the barriers, lower the walls. The very well that keeps out disappointment keeps out happiness. Let life touch you, don't let it kill you, but let it touch you. Here's the last one, resolution. Resolution says, I will. Two of the most powerful words in the language. I will. Benjamin Disraeli once said, nothing can resist a human will that will stake even its existence on the extent of its purpose. Simply put, I'll do it or die. See, that's powerful. That could be the day that turns your life around. The day when the world has a strange way of stepping aside, when someone says, I'll do it or die. The man says, I will climb the mountain. They've told me it's too high, it's too far, it's too rocky, it's too difficult, it's never been done. But it's my mountain. I will climb it. Pretty soon, you'll see me waving from the top or dead on the side because I ain't coming back. The best definition I ever got from the word resolve came from a little junior high girl in Foster City, California, up north. I'm talking to the junior high kids one day. I love to ask kids definitions. They come up with gems. I got to the word resolve and I asked, who can tell me what resolve means? And I got some hands and they were all pretty good, but the last one was the best. A girl about 3 rows back held up her hand. She said, I'm Mr. Rohn. Mr. Owen, I think I know what resolve means. I said, dear, what do you think it means? She said, I think it means promising yourself you will never give up. I said, that's it. Webster, stand aside. That's the definition. Promise yourself you will never give up. I asked the kids, how long should a baby try to learn to walk? How long? How long would you give your average baby before you shut him off? How long? See, any mother in the world would say, you're crazy. My baby's going to keep on until it learns to walk. What a magic formula. Now let me show you what sets off all emotions into action that brings results are the name of the game. Here it is, action. Finally, you must do something with how you feel. Jesus, the master teacher, said, don't just be listeners, be doers. The world admires the doers. Whatever it takes to get you to work harder, read more, set your goals, and go for it. Here's the next mental virus. Overcaution. Some people never will have much. They're too cautious. Now, you can also be too reckless, but you can also be too cautious. This is called the timid approach. What's more, my weariness was consistently the gamble. It used to make me absolutely crazy. I used to express out loud, what if this happens? It's known as the language of the poor. What if this happens? And what if that were to happen? check the fix I'd be in. I'd better not try. No, thank you. I could always psych myself out. Then let me tell you what changed my whole life when I finally discovered it's all risky. The moment you were born, it got risky. If you think trying is risky, wait till they give you the bill for not trying. If you think investing is risky, wait till you get the tab for not investing. See, it's all risky. Getting married is risky. Having children is risky. Going into business is risky. Investing your money is risky. It's all risky. I'll tell you how risky life isn't. You're not going to get out alive. That's risky. The British chap says, well, if that's the case, we might as well give it a go, right? Give it a go. Someone says, yeah, but I'm looking for safety and security. Fine, then huddle in a... We'll cover you with a sheet, bring you 3 meals a day, and we'll protect you, feed you, look after you, care for you. We won't let anything happen to you, and you'll probably live to be 100. The guy says, well, yeah, I'd live to be 100, but what a way to live, right? What a way to live, safe and secure. Don't ask for security, ask for adventure. Better to live 30 years full of adventure than 100 years safe in the corner. And see, it's not important how long you live. What's important is how you live. Here's the next attitude disease. We're almost through this diverse list. In fact, we're almost through, hang on. The next one is pessimism. Pessimism, the deadly disease of always looking on the bad side, the problem side, the difficult side, counting all the reasons why it can't be done. The poor pessimist leads an ugly life. He doesn't try to figure out what's right. He tries to figure out what's wrong. He doesn't look for virtue. He looks for faults. And when he finds them, he's delighted. This is the poor guy who looks through the window, doesn't see the sunset. He sees the specks on the window. And this is the poor guy who rushes up, takes such leave of his senses. This guy rushes up and he says, I have 5 good reasons why it won't work. He's so dumb. He doesn't know all he needs is 1. He has 5. To the pessimist, the glass is always half empty. To the optimist, the glass is half full. Why can the same glass affect people in 2 different ways? Answer, it all depends on your perspective. Our lives are all influenced, by the way. We think things are not how they are. The way we think they are affects us most. There's a subject we don't have time to get into tonight called better thinking habit. One of the major things Schaff taught me when I met him, he said, poor thinking habits keep most people poor. Not poor working habits. Most people work hard, but they don't think hard. And Schaff taught me that the mind is like a factory, a mental factory, and whatever you think about all day pours ingredients into this mental factory, and that builds the economic, social, financial fabric of your life. He quoted me a Bible phrase that says, as you think, so you become. How powerful. When he talked about poor thinking habits, he had me. I used to start the day reading the morning paper. I mean, you can believe that or not. I'd get some coffee and read the paper. I'd load up on wars and riots and murders and stabbings and killings and bank robberies and muggings and car wrecks and tragedies. I'd even read the last pages. I seemed to like that stuff for some weird reason. I'd load up on all that, and then I'd start the day. You can imagine the kind of days I used to have. You walk around on your financial knees. They call you financial peewee. The guy says, I want to be a great leader. Wonderful. The first thing we do is follow him to his house. When we get there, we walk in, check his library. Number 1, someone says, well, why check his library? The reason is because what a man reads pours big ingredients into his mental factory, and the fabric of his life is built from those ingredients. You wouldn't believe what some people have in their homes to read. You wouldn't believe it. One of the best dressed up words, I know for a lot of it, is junk. Can you imagine dumping a barrel of junk into this mental factory every day and coming out with a rich, vibrant, positive life? It can't be done. You might as well try making a cake with cement. The kids back in Danbury, Connecticut high school, they're asking me questions one day. I'm talking to the kids. Kids have better questions nowadays. One of them asked me, Mr. Rohn, how do you build the good life? I said, it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Here's how you build any. Select the right ingredients. Keep out the wrong ingredients. And it starts with thought. Everything starts with thought. So you must be smart and careful what you think about, because that starts everything. There, you become smart and careful. I asked the kids, what would happen if someone dropped sugar in my coffee? They said, well, you'd be okay. I asked, what if someone dropped strychnine in my coffee? They said, well, you'd be dead. I said, right, listen, life is both sugar and strychnine. You have to be careful. I asked, what if my worst enemy drops in the sugar? They said, you'd be okay. I asked, what if my best friend, even by accident, drops in the strychnine? They said, well, you'd be dead. I said, right, lesson 2, watch your coffee. You must be careful. See, it doesn't matter who hands you the bad stuff. It doesn't matter where you get the bad stuff. It'll still do its damage on your bank account wherever you get it. Mr. Schaaf gave me one of the best phrases when I first met him. He said, Jim, always stand guard at the door of your mind. How important. Stand guard at the door of your mind, and you decide what goes into your mental factory. Don't let anybody just dump anything they want to in your mental factory, because you have to live with the results. Okay? The last subject is exceptionally concise. But this one is fatal. Engage in this one, indulge in it even slightly, and you might as well forget the future, because it will forget you. Complaining, crying, whining, grumbling, a Bible word called murmuring. See, that will wreck your future. Spend 5 minutes complaining, and you have wasted 5. And you might have begun what's called the financial disease of the bone. Probably they will soon drag you away into a financial desert, and they'll let you choke on the dust of your own regret. I hope I said that well so you won't forget. It's a deadly disease. If you don't think it's that bad, ask the children of Israel of biblical fame. Typical of their story just happened to get in the book. The story says the children of Israel were slaves. God performed a series of stunning miracles and got them out. And now they're heading for the promised land. Remember the story? Heading for the promised land? The tragedy of the story. They never got there. Reasonless. From day one, they started to complain. They fussed about the water. They grumbled about the weather. They whined and complained about the food. They fussed about the leadership. They whined and cried because it was too far. Too cold, too hot, too difficult, too miserable. I mean, they maximized whine and weep for years. Finally, God said, I've had it. Trip canceled or something like that. The story says they died in the desert, never got to the promised land, which I think means 2 things. Indulge in it long enough, and you get your future canceled. And I guess it also means even God himself can only take so much. Just be on the watch for the things that can destroy all the good you start. The war is on. And tonight, tomorrow, mentally, physically, socially, economically, you've got to make sure you're winning the war. And this is part of it.